Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Invest. In this video, I'm going to go through the process in regards to why I bought a company called IPD Group. If you've never heard of this company, don't worry, because IPD Group only listed on the ASX about 2 months ago. It was like December 17th of 2021. Now, I do have some rules, so I'll go through the rules, and probably the best way to look at my rules are to think of them as guidelines, and I will not follow my rules absolutely. There is a bit of flexibility to my rules, and we'll just talk about these rules and why I took a position in IPD Group the other day. In regards to doing any research about IPD Group, probably the best source of information is the prospectus that they released in regards to their IPO. It's usually prospectuses are troves of information, not only about the company, but also the market, competitors, and risk. So if you want any more information on this company, I do recommend going to their prospectus. There's about, I'd say it's about 180 pages long or something like that. That's a rough estimate, but you can go through that, find any sort of detail you want in regards to this company, and you know, if you like researching companies, that is the best source of information. Now, that's uniquely for companies that have just IPO'd. For companies that have been on the ASX for 20, 30 years, a prospectus is or will be way out of date. So this is only applicable for those companies that have recently IPO'd. Anyway, IPD Group is a national distributor and service provider to the Australian electrical market, and their products they do sell account for 89% of the revenue and services 11%. So the sort of customers that would be using IPD Group are switchboard manufacturers, OEMs and system integrators, electrical wholesalers, electrical contractors and power utilities. So definitely not me. And the type of services: data centers, healthcare, power generation, utilities, industrial, mining, roads and rail infrastructure. This is a national company, and there is even potential in the future they might try to move overseas. Might be putting words in their mouth, but is definitely a possibility in this company's future. Now, it's really interesting to find the reason why a company might want to list on the exchange. So for a lot of companies, it's all about gaining access to more capital. Sometimes it's allowing the shareholders of a company to sell some of their shareholding so they can, you know, get some money. For IPD Group, one of the reasons they wanted to list on the ASX was all about name recognition. And I completely understand that. When you do list on a public exchange, your name gets out there. So I know all about IPD Group, and if they remained private, I would have had no idea about this company. So their name will be getting out there, and that is actually a way you drum up more business. And here are the rules or signals I use to take positions in companies. And the best way to view rules is just as guidelines. And the reason I say guidelines instead of rules is because usually rules are much more rigid and they're not really flexible. When you use guidelines, you allow a little bit of flexibility in there, and I like that flexibility, because if you look at the first rule, I prefer to wait at least 6 months after the IPO before I take a position in the company. And if I followed that rule rigidly, without any flexibility, I would not have taken a position in IPD Group, because they've only been listed on the ASX for 2 months. And the reason I have this guideline or this rule is threefold. The first reason is when a company usually IPOs on the market, there's going to be a lot of hype, and sometimes you will see the share price rise up by a fair bit. And I just want to wait until that hype wanes away, and that can take a few months. The second reason is I want to wait for the first financial results released by the company just to see how they have performed as a publicly listed company. And because companies on the ASX release financial results every 6 months, that's the reason it is 6 months after the IPO. The third reason is I do want to wait at least 100 days of trading because I want to see the moving averages come into play. And because I use, say, 25, 50, 100-day moving averages, that last moving average, 100-day, is the reason why I want to wait 100 days before taking a position. And 100 days in terms of months is actually 5 months. So that fits in within my rule. But again, I use this rule with a little bit of flexibility. That's not true for my second rule, share price in an uptrend. I won't be as flexible with this rule. In fact, I want to be rigidly following this rule because I only want to be buying into a company where the share price is in an uptrend, preferably when the share price is at an all-time high. That is the ideal situation because that means there's no resistance moving forward. And sometimes a company can release some good news when it's in a downtrend, and because there's a lot of overhanging resistance, the share price will have trouble moving up from that piece of good news. And that takes me to the third rule, is I want to wait for a breakout on positive news. Now, this doesn't always happen. Sometimes I just wait for a shift in sentiment, and sometimes a shift in sentiment can happen on no news. But whenever I see a breakout in the share price on positive news, particularly if it's a trading update, and that's a positive trading update, or a profit upgrade, and the share price breaks out to all-time highs, that is a clear signal for me to take a position in a company. The fourth and fifth rules are definitely not rigid, definitely flexible, but I do prefer companies to be profitable, having positive operational cash flow, and growing. So I will look at revenue receipts, and I want to see revenue receipts growing through time. And the fifth one is a little bit more subjective, and that is good value. So let's go through IPD Group and see how this company fits in with all these rules I have. Whenever a company IPOs on the ASX, apart from mining exploring companies, I put those companies on an IPO watch list, and I just follow the share price movement over the next 100 days after their IPO. And I might be a little bit biased here, and I haven't done any statistics on this, but I would say a vast majority of these companies that do IPO see their share price decline or fall over the first 100 days. So I only focus on those companies who see their share price rise over the first 100 days. And it is a select few, and those are the companies I would want to take a position in if they do release any positive news or that uptrend continues. For IPD Group, they listed on the exchange on the 17th of December 2021. So they've only been on the ASX for less than 2 months. So this was on my watch list. The share price has been increasing. We'll see that when we look at the chart. But because I had not been on the ASX for over 6 months, I was not wanting to take a position in this company, even though the share price was in an uptrend. I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself, but here is the chart for IPD Group. And they listed on the ASX, and the share price was around about $1.05. I think they listed $1.20, and when they opened, the share price actually did open a little bit less than the IPO price. But it doesn't matter because the share price has been increasing there. I prefer to see 3 moving averages before I even take a position here. And at this point in time, we only have 1 moving average, which is the 20-day moving average. We'll soon see the 50-day moving average poke its head, and it won't be until a few months down the line we'll see the 100-day moving average. But the most important thing here is what happened on the 8th of February. We did see a massive volume come in, and the share price opened up at around about $1.36 and actually kept on climbing through the day, reached a high of $1.50 and closed that day at $1.46. And I actually took a position on this date, even though the company hasn't been listed on the exchange for over 6 months, only 2 months. So why did I take a position in IPD Group on the 8th of February? If I had to rank my rules in order of preference, this rule here, a breakout on positive news, in particular a positive trading update or profit upgrade, would rank equal with the share price in an uptrend. These are the most 2 important rules. Now, I don't always wait for a share price to break out on positive news. Sometimes the sentiment will shift without any positive news because the market is forward-looking. And maybe they are thinking their company will release some positive news in the future. But when I do see a company release a positive trading update or a profit upgrade, and this is most importantly, and the share price is in an uptrend, or the share price is in a consolidation period and breaks out of that consolidation period, that is when I become excited and might take a position in the company. I can take the position on the particular day they release the announcement, or I might wait a few days. Now, just because a company releases some positive news, a profit upgrade, doesn't mean I will take a position, particularly if the share price is in a downtrend. That can be a trap. And I've seen this play over and over again. When a company releases a profit upgrade and the share price is in a downtrend, it is not a successful breakout. It usually does fail. Not always, but the success rates are fairly low. So that's why I want to see the share price in an uptrend or break out of consolidation period when they release some profit upgrades or a positive trading update. And I almost forgot to talk about the positive or the profit upgrade that IPD Group released on the 7th of February. And this is the reason I took a position in this company, because the share price was in an uptrend. It's a profit upgrade in terms of EBITDA and EBIT. Now on to rules number 4 and 5. And when we talk about company being positive operational cash flow and or profitable, those can be a little bit more flexible. But when it comes to growth, I want to see the company growing through time. And when it comes to the IPO, if you look at their prospectus, the company usually does give at least about 3 years of financial data, or the past 3 years of financial data. And when you look at IPD Group, we can see revenue growing from 76 million to a forecast of 170 million for financial year 22. And when they gave out some forecasts for EBITDA and profit, and based off that, looks like everything is growing here. EBITDA back in financial year 19 was 3.7. Now they expect that to be around 18 million. Profit was actually negative. They were actually loss-making in financial year 19. Now they expect profit to be around $10 million. They also gave some estimations for cash flow, including operational cash flow. Back in financial year 2019, they were operational cash flow positive by 1.9 million, and they grew that to 10.3 million in financial year 21. They expect that to be a little bit lower in financial year 22, and more than likely that's because of the IPO process. But still, with this profit upgrade, there is potential that the cash flow from operations might be a little bit higher than they're forecasting here. So everything is growing for IPD Group, and that's one of the other reasons I took a position in this company. Now on to value, and I want to see some good value here. Now, determining whether a company has good value, bad value, or normal value is quite subjective, and we might have a wide range of different opinions when we judge how the value is for a different company. And I want to keep as much subjectivity out of the rule making, out of determining these rules, these guidelines, that sort of thing. So just keep back in your mind, there is a little bit of subjectivity when I talk about the valuation of IPD Group or valuation of any company. The first thing I want to know about any sort of company is the market cap of the company. And for IPD Group, that is 125 million at $1.46. The other things I want to know is revenue, profit after tax, and operating cash flow. And I have used their financial year 21 numbers. So keep that in the back of mind as well. I am backward looking, not forward looking, because if I was forward looking, we might have different valuation metric numbers here. In fact, it would look more favorable. So I want to be a little bit more conservative here when I'm working out the valuation metrics. The other thing is we don't know the profit after tax at this point in time, because the guidance they gave us was all about EBITDA, or the profit upgrade was all about EBITDA, and EBIT wasn't about profit after tax, wasn't about operating cash flow. The three metrics or valuation metrics I do use are price to sales ratio, PE ratio, and EV to operating cash flow, which is my favorite. Price to sales ratio I don't think is as applicable for IPD Group as some other companies, and we get a number of 1.06, which I do think is a little bit low for this company that is growing at a fairly quick rate. Now, PE ratio is something I will use, 19.2, but keep in mind this is a growing company, and there's a possibility that profit after tax could be significantly higher in financial year 22, and that price to sale or PE ratio might be as low as, say, 10, or it could even be in single digits, which would mean IPD Group will look even more attractive than it does now. And the EV to operating cash flow, based off the financial year 21 numbers, is 11.8. And the reason this is my favorite valuation metrics is because it takes into account debt and cash and the operating cash flow as well. And that number, 11.8, is not in my ideal range. The ideal range for any company is 6 to 10. But when you take into account this company is growing, this does look attractive. And if we do see good growth in operating cash flow, this company's EV to operating cash flow might be under a 10, and that would make this company even more attractive. So overall, the valuation metrics aren't at ideal rates based off, or the deal numbers based off financial year 21 numbers. But if we do forward project, we probably would see much more attractive valuation metrics for this company. So those are the reasons why I bought into this company, IPD Group. A few months ago, I did not know this company existed until I saw they had IPO'd onto the ASX. I did a little bit of research. I saw they were profitable, operating cash flow positive, and because they were a new IPO, I put them onto my watch list, saw the share price starting to increase, so this company became a little bit more attractive, but I just wanted to see the first financial results. And as soon as they released a profit upgrade, that was a trigger for me to take a position in this company because the share price was in an uptrend. If you do have any questions about my process, please leave those questions in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, I'm not a financial advisor. If you do need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.